There we are. How is everybody? Good? Good. Good, good. Well, happy Tuesday, the 14th of October. It's shocking. This year's almost done. Crazy. Well, uh I am here for your questions. So um if you've got one, um raise your hand, your proverbial hand, and we'll get right to it. Dan.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I have so as I started to move into VO from other acting and got to start on audiobook narration.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm getting kind of overwhelmed by all of the different avenues, the webinars and everything like that from SAG-AFTRA, and taking coaching from you and looking at everything I can to kind of improve my VO world.
Mhm.
Um, the thing that strikes me is what's the most likely place to get a like some demos, agents, whatever. I've heard that don't do your own commercial demos, get a professional demo. I can't afford that right now,
Mhm.
frankly. There's just way too much outlay,
Yep.
and
Yep. Yep.
I'm kind of segueing into a second career as this, so I really want to be able to do the right thing at the right time. So I've taken, documentary narration, long form, commercial, trying to get a handle on what's out there as far as niche markets and also to try to get representation. So I'm kind of stuck there, and maybe there are some other folks who are in the same position who might be able to sort of maybe get a little bit of guidance and say, look, if you were in my position and you're looking to get, maybe into a less, I don't want to say less competitive because we're all in a competitive business. Everything we do is competitive. It always has been, whether you're
Yeah.
stage or commercial or whatever.
Yeah.
But at least being able to get out there more and have a good shot at something that's going to be, you know, um, that's going to pay off eventually, even if it's not immediately, even if it's just going on auditions and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts on that. I think very often, we whether we are conscious of it or not, just the way the human brain works, for most of us, it's not true of all of us by any stretch, but I think for most of us, we tend to look at things in a very linear fashion. Like this thing will happen, then this thing, then this thing, then this thing will happen, and it'll move in an orderly sequence. I I've realized I have this interest in voiceover. Um, I've been told I have a good voice. I found a class. I learned some things. I need to make a demo, and then I'll get an agent, and then I'll get work. And and there are so many layers in the in between of those things, and um, and it's a two steps forward, one step back kind of a thing. And so what I think what we really have to realize is that we're going to be spinning different plates at kind of all times, you know. Um, we may work in one particular area before we work in another, but we still have to spin the plates of that other area that we're not yet working in, you know. And so I can't say to you that there is, this orderly step by step thing that happens. Um, but I think what's important to take from it is to just, you know, take the first indicated step, if you will, right, along the way. And there are many indicated steps as you keep moving. Um, so let me try to tackle each of these things because your question was multi-layered. Let me try to tackle these things one at a time. You're correct, like you about demos. It's voiceover is such an expensive venture to be able to participate, and you can participate in the competition, if you will, as long as you've got a good microphone and access to some auditions that you can turn in, right? You don't have to have a lot of experience. You don't um y- you can you can participate ill prepared, you can participate without talent. You can do that because there are so few things that are required for you to set up shop, you know? Um, and uh, so what we want to do is if we really want to compete, right, to actually when you turn in the thing and you want the thing to be good enough that someone will listen to it and consider you, right? Um, we do need our calling card, which is a demo. We need something, right, to be able to say, here's a sample of what I do. This is voiceover and here's my voice, you know? And so I think we have to reserve expensive demo making for that time where um where we've got enough training under our belt, you know, and we have money in the bank because I don't think anybody should go into debt to make a demo. I just I just think it's unwise, you know, and not required. And so so I think a piece of the answer to that initial question of like making demos and you know um and putting yourself out there, and you're putting yourself out there to find opportunity to audition. I just want to clarify that, right? And all an agent is another, it's one avenue to find opportunity to audition. That's what that is. It's not magical. There's nothing magical about agents. They're just another avenue to find opportunity, right? And it has different there are different attributes to that avenue, right? There are a lot of things that go along with an agent, right? But that's all it is. So I think what you want to do in the beginning is in your travels through workshopping and training, when you run across a piece that a, a piece of copy that you know that has resonated with you, that you think, or that you've been affirmed for, right? Like, this is a really good piece of copy for you. You sound great on this. This is the genre for you. This is, right? All those things. You take in that information and you go, okay, so um, I'm going to either ask permission to use this particular piece of copy or find a piece of copy that has the same kind of attributes, and I'm going to record it on my own. And maybe I'll put a little music behind it, or maybe I won't. It'll just be a good, well-edited read, and you put it up as a snippet, right? If you're going to set up a profile on Voice123 or Voices.com or wherever it might be that you're going to uh, to look for opportunity, right? And you start there. You have to start somewhere, right? And all you need for a site like Voice123 is something to fill out your profile, because they're not people on Voice123 are not going to come to you, right? Based on the demos that you, and not at this point, based on the demos that you've got listed. They're going to come to you by way of the algorithm because of the words that you populate in your profile. And you're going to get auditions based on that, which is why your profile in Voice123 has to be really well managed, and well populated with the right kinds of words so that you don't end up getting, we want a 7-year-old female African American, right? That's which happens all the time. People are like, why am I getting sent this thing for, a 12-year-old male? I'm a 60-year-old woman. It's like, well, because your algorithm is not, it's not, you're not populating your site properly, right? So they're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? So when you're beginning, that's how you do it, right? You take pieces, you use what you have, you do what you can, you know? Um, and as time moves on, you start to add to those, they start to change a little bit. Perhaps your own editing skills get better, and you go, I think I am going to put this piece of music under this thing. And I've got three of them, and maybe I'll string them together, all of which we can do ourselves because we have basic editing skills if we are recording auditions. We have what we need to do these basic editing skills, right? So a professionally made demo happens later, right? And it happens particularly if you're to the point in your career where you are seeking agency representation. And I have to say, for everybody, that's further down the line than you think it is. Like for all of us in the space of, going to find our own work on pay to play sites, that's like competitive as it is, right? Well, the world of agency representation is even more exclusive, if you will, because agents are like, well, what are you bringing with you? They have so many people on their rosters. And it's like, well, we have all this to offer you. What do you have to offer us? And unless you're a teenager who um, doesn't have a lot of experience and isn't expected to have a lot of experience, it's like, well, they'll take literally young people on, and develop them and work with them, right? But when you're in the categories that most of us here are, it's like, well, you got to bring with you some experience and a track record. So I think we have to get out of our minds that agenting is in the top five of things that we um, but goals that we have, right? There are so many more before we get to that space, which is not to discourage you from that, but also agenting is um really for the realm of video games, animation, dubbing, commercial narration. um we have a lot better chance getting those things on our own by virtue of our own marketing and our own relationship building. And no agency is really going to take you on in the realm of audiobooks, um, commercial, broadcast narration, unless you have an enormous amount of experience in those realms. That's just what agencies are about. And there's so much opportunity to audition for commercial and for audiobooks um, on our own without representation, that seeking an agent for those things is kind of like, ooh, that's a lot of time and effort and frustration, right? That certainly in the beginning of a person's career is a lot of time expended without much result, and that's what we're after, if anything, right? Is to not waste time, right? If we're older, if there's one thing I have like become face to face with in these last few years, it's like, what do you want to do with your life, K-Bess? Like, you're in the third act. Like, there's time's a wasting. So there's that piece of it. Um, and you know, I don't know who said it. I think I first saw it, um, with Mel Robbins, who's kind of a self-help guru person these days. But I just remember the first video I ever saw of hers, and the audio was used on all these various videos, and the audio was like, "No one's coming. No one's coming to save you from your life, to make everything work, to make you are the answer to you know your burning questions and the progress in your career, right?" And I think I have to leave my frame for a second because my camera just went out of focus. Pardon me while I tie my shoe. Isn't that just magic? So, and so I look and I want to say to you guys, really, like, get comfortable with this idea that you hold the reins. You hold the reins. And you need to figure out how best to uh, make yourself viable on pay to play, how best to attract clients on your own. That's like at that is way higher on the list than how do I get an agent, right? Um, and there are all kinds of, like, I don't know if you're familiar with ACX. It's probably the biggest, source of audiobook narration opportunities. Um, and again, it may not be the best. I don't know. I actually don't know that. There are lots of video book publishers to get in touch with, right? And to see if you can get on their roster, right? And with audiobook stuff, it's as, if they say, well, we want to hear what you've got. Well, pick a book from the shelf in your house and read, right? And do a really clean recording. And you've got yourself a sample to send, right? To upload, to offer, right? But all of this, it seems to me like, um, because the ideal for so long has been, um, agent, agent. I need an agent. I need an agent. Like, we're still a little bit stuck in that mindset, and we're still stuck in that mindset because so many coaches are sort of dangling that carrot out, like that's the thing, right? That's what we need. We need that. That's the highest goal, and I just want to go, oh man, it's just an old paradigm. It is an old paradigm, and it is offered by coaches who themselves are still in the old paradigm. So they're not familiar to the same degree. I think they're marginally familiar, but not to the same degree of how inventive, entrepreneurial, self-starting most people in this country who do voiceover really are. Like really. Um, and so they're still trying to woo people into an old paradigm when the example should be, finding people to take instruction from who've actually done these things on their own and have figured out a way to communicate with potential clients. Those are the real teachers about how the business works. You can go to people who've been in the traditional realm of voiceover and talk about technique. That's great. I think that's what we have to offer. That's what I have to offer, for one. Like, I don't do audiobooks, so I can't really offer to you, like, well, here's the breakdown of how that all works, right? It's not my area of expertise, but um, so I'm a little bit on my soapbox about this, but I want to say, Dan, like, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, right? Make whatever kind of um, clean recording that you can of samples that you have been affirmed for, right? Like these are, I do this well, right? Um, and get yourself profiles wherever you need them to be, right? And have them at the ready when you are speaking directly with a potential client to say, you know, we talk whatever game we need to talk. If they're like, well, do you have a demo? And you can say, I'm in the midst of making one right now, but I have some samples, right? It doesn't have to be like, well, I'm not very experienced and I don't really have one yet, and I can't afford that right now. And it's like, we don't need to tell every last piece of minutia of our lives. We just like, I'm in the midst of making one, but I have some samples for you, like let that be good enough. And it is, you know. So um, the other thing about, when you say like I'm getting direction, from various people in the voiceover world in different genres, right? And I imagine that you're getting what you might perceive as being conflicting types of training. Am I right about that? Am I assuming that correctly?
Not so much conflicting different types of training because I
Uh,
think it it all overlaps, right? I mean, good voiceovers in one area will inform good voiceovers in another area. I
sure.
think it's more the trainings is not the conflict. It's really probably the approach to the business, for example,
Yeah, yeah.
and that like you say, some people are in an older paradigm and some people are much more tuned to how to use the social media and direct connections. So
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, well, that makes
And
sense. Yeah.
yeah, it does. And that can be confusing and conflicting. And I guess I would ask the question, like, who am I getting this information from? What's their area of expertise? You know, um, and even if a lot of people with experience in voiceover and expertise in voiceover will make assumptions that they have more expertise in another area than they actually do. You know how that works. I mean, if you ask somebody an opinion, about one thing, they'll give you an opinion about five other things that they may not be, an expert in, right? And so we have to employ our a sense of discernment and ask ourselves these questions. It's like, who's giving me this advice? Okay, it's a casting director. Okay, in what area does this person cast? Well, they mostly cast in commercial. Okay, um, so is that the casting person that you want to go to for advice on an animation read? No, it isn't. But I can pretty much guarantee you that they'll offer you advice about that area, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should take it, or you have to put it in perspective of who they are and weigh it that way, right? And so like I think we have to use just some additional discernment, right? About if we're faced with information that we're not kind of able to incorporate, to what we're doing. Is like, how does that fit in, And maybe it's advice that you get and then you go, you know what, this doesn't apply to me right now. So I'm just going to set that aside, and hold that for later, you know. Um, but I think in the areas of, I would say, and I am happy to be proven wrong. Like I truly am. I don't hold this like it's gospel at all. But I do think that when we're seeking out opportunities for work, for animation, video games, um, dubbing, we do have to set our sights on representation. And that's hard because that's where most of the opportunities come from agencies. And yet we can't get into agencies unless it's the catch 22, It's like, well, I want to be in the union. Well, you have to do union work to be in the union. And, well, to get union work, you have to be in the union. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's a little catch 22, but there are if that's your goal, right? Recognize that there are places around the country that do animation that are smaller houses that are not high profile, right? And you're going to go and seek out opportunities from them to audition. And I have friends and clients who do this all the time, and they are slowly, slowly building their reel, right? So that they can then go to an agency and say, I do have experience in animation. Here's my reel. But it's taking years, it's like it's a process, Um, but for commercial, for narration, particularly corporate narration. Like those are things that we can pursue on our own directly, either um, direct marketing with production companies who do those things, with the businesses themselves and asking for their production facility or their production department, and like trying to make headway that way, right? And it's a process. Um, and then also using pay to play sites where you can get opportunity there too. But again, pay to play sites, like anything, it's like a needle in a haystack. You're going to get good opportunity and you're going to get not so good opportunity, right? So once you start to kind of understand the different categories of voiceover that have different pathways to opportunity, then you can start to prioritize, what you're gonna pursue first. Again, spinning all the plates that you're interested in, but you go, here's the avenue over here where I'm really gonna focus my attention while I'm spinning these plates over here too. Um, Audiobooks, again, is it like anything. Yes, there is kind of this clearinghouse of ACX where you can go, but those are mostly, will give you a portion of the sales, right? So it's not like direct, again, it's not like direct payment, but it is experience, and if the book does well, you'll see something, but you have no guarantees. But again, where are you in your career? What's the expectation? The recognition that we need experience, it's valuable, right? um, to be able to do it, even if it's to get a copy of the thing sometimes, right? In the beginning, like, okay, well, here I've got a sample. I mean, I think I did a thing for a girlfriend of mine who was doing some kind of audiobook of Franny and Zooey, like, and she wanted me to read it, and she was such a she was a really good producer, and so she didn't pay me, right? But I ended up with these beautiful pieces that I use, in pursuit of audiobook work, like, and that was really valuable to me. That was a cheap demo, you know? Like, so I think we have to just look at all the things and go, does this benefit me at this moment? Am I willing to give of my time, right, in order to get a thing in return that I actually need? I need this thing. Um, so, it's a long and complex question. And I just want to know, is there a piece that I missed? Like, did I not address something that,
No, that was very thorough. Yeah, no, that was a good
okay,
overview, and there's a lot of good gems in there. So thank you. Yeah, no, that
okay. Okay. And I
totally.
mean, if
I know it's
something
a big
comes,
question. It's a big question, and it's
yeah,
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 yeah.
it's one that everybody struggles with. Like,
Hmm.
there's so many avenues of voiceover to pursue, and so many that one person can be good at. And so, um, and I think we just, things take time. It's a slower and more laborious process than any of us wants it to be. you know
Yeah,
I get frustrated, um because of my particular history in voiceover. I get frustrated sometimes if I, submit to a regional agency and they're not interested, and I want to go, really? I've been doing this for 40 years, and I have all this experience and I've done all these things, and I get frustrated and I go, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to look for a regional agent then. Like, which is the opposite of every piece of advice I've ever given anybody. It's like, what, you think you're just going to knock and they're going to go, yeah, come on in. Sure, we'll bump somebody over in our roster who's been here forever, and yeah, we'll take you on. And it's like, I don't even take my own advice in that way. I just kind of go, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to get an agency in that region of the country. So I realize it's frustrating, and we have an expectation of like, well, I'm pretty good at it, even though I'm new at it, and you can be new and good, you know? Um and so the acceptance of like, this is going to take time. It's going to take time, you know? and if we're older and we have less time than we think we do, you know, then we have to be even more diligent about the use of the time that we have, you know? So, anyway, that it's like, I understand is really what I want to say. Like, I understand that it's frustrating to feel like you have a skill set, you're good at it. And well, by golly, if I just knock on this door, it should open for me. It should, but ain't nothing fair, about it. It's not linear in that way either.
Yeah.
There are lots of people on the roster of talent agencies with very little talent. That's just true. Not
Mhm.
everybody is great, you know? And smart agencies pare down their roster every year. They go, yeah, you know what? On second thought, this isn't working. And there are other people out there that we could take on who perhaps have more talent. We could take a risk on them, And so, smart agencies do that, So,
Yeah.
anyway, now I'm really on my soapbox. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Anybody else with a question? Ron, yes. Hello, my friend. Just have to
There
unmute
I
you.
go.
There
Push the
you
right
are. Good.
button.
Okay, good. Good,
This
good.
is sort of a follow-on, okay, to and I totally grasp in the short time I've been doing this that training is absolutely number one. My eyes have been blown wide open just in the short time I've been learning how to take this on. But
Yeah.
should a miracle happen and I get an audition, um, I do want to be able to send something over that is not only technically good,
Mm-hmm.
but I also need to send them a contract. And so my question is, by your recommendation, I went to nava.org, for instance, and they won't they won't allow me on as a member without having a track record. And so I just want to get on and learn and be able to use their contract,
Mm-hmm.
so I can send something over so I look like I know what I'm doing. um, because they're going to ask for that. So, what happens in this? I mean, I know you just addressed it a lot, but is there any other way I can get a contract together? So, uh,
So this is if you have auditioned and you have booked the work. Is that correct? Right.
right,
Yeah. Um, um, yeah, that's a really good question. Here's where I think being a part of um social media, participating in social media, to the extent that you can join, like Facebook in particular, because there are so many voiceover groups there, where you can come in, join, um, join a group, a collection of people who do voiceover, and they're titled differently, but and this is where lurking is really great, where if you don't, where you can go and follow the conversations, you can search questions, and people are asking these kinds of questions all the time about where do I get a contract, or I just booked a thing and I'm not exactly sure what I should be charging or what the terms should be, right? They're out there, right? There's advice out there. I can't, here I directed you to Nava, and I just was like, well, I figured that I didn't know that they had a requirement, for experience for membership, right? That I was not aware of that. So that's good for me to know. That's what I think of off the top of my head, you know. I I'll tell you, the things that I have booked outside of um, outside of my agency, which tend to be things like, I've read for some apps, and you know, I've done a couple of things, not much, but I simply, I don't know. This is me, I guess, but I simply state my terms in an email, and I say, I here's my rate. This is my hourly rate, and I'll send you an invoice. You know, like I don't really go into great depth and detail about it. Um, and you know, I I give I give particular terms, usually, which for me is like, you know, it's due if it were a large job, like a large job, I would say, well, I need before I start this 20-hour project, before I invest 10 hours in this 20-hour project, I want half payment up front, right? And then the rest is due upon completion and delivery. I might say that. Um,
And
I um I think that you can, I may be wrong about this. I mean, there are AI writers, that you can put on. I um usually the stuff that I do is um again, it's been for small companies that are like, oh, we're just making a video for our website. It's like, okay. I and I don't get myself too tied up in those sorts of details. It's a and I'm just telling you me. I know that there are other people in voiceover who would listen to this and go, "Kate Best, like, what are you thinking?" Like you're going to give them use in perpetuity on their website, and my answer would be, yes, I am. I am doing that. I am getting paid for the hourly work that I'm doing. It's very specific to this company. They've paid me the wage that I have asked for, and that's fine. I got paid for my time, you know? And that is the view that I hold. And so I, part of me wants to say, Ron, like, this is a little bit cart before the horse, right? And at the same time, I appreciate that you want to be prepared for what is to come, you know? Um, Not every job is super complex and like, ooh, man, I got to figure out the terms of this thing when they come at you saying, well, we're doing this commercial and it's going to be in this region, and you have to, and you have to know about use and all the, and the term of how long they're going to run it, and are they going to use it broadcast, or are they going to use it on social media, or is it then going to live on their website in perpetuity? Like, there are a lot of different things like that, um but that is one that's like, I haven't had to negotiate those kinds of things, right? Um which I'm not saying might not happen to you. It might be the first thing you book, is some commercial where it's like, well, we're going to run it here and here in this region and that region, and then they offer you a set fee, and you're like, okay, is that rate good enough for the kind of usage that they're going to, have? And I actually think in that case, if you have that going on, then you can talk to somebody at NAVA and say, I am negotiating this contract right now, this booking right now, right? Um, and I need to know, how to negotiate it. At the same time, for rates and things like that, you can use the GVAA rate guide, right? And you can use the SAG contract as a rate guide. Those are published. They're out there, you know. They're on the SAG website, whether you are a member of SAG or not. You can search SAG commercial contract PDF, and it'll give you rates. And that's really what we're talking about when we say, I need to send them a contract. What you're contracting is the use and the rate, and whether or not it's going to be used for AI, you know.
I
Um,
will say this, that on the NAVA site, you can get to their contract and their AI writer
Yeah.
and download them to create your own.
Okay.
They do make that available.
All right. Yeah, which is good. And then if they have those things available to you, then that's when you take advantage of the collective wisdom of, these various and sundry voiceover groups um, on Facebook, you know, um, which I know, again, it's another step, right? It's like, really? I got to go do that now too. I got to join that thing. I got to find those people. I got to talk, it's like, yeah, that's how it's done. Again, it's part of the frustration. It's just like, it's another hurdle. It's like, there are hurdles along this path. And, you know, is it worth it to you to jump the hurdle? That's a question that's a question every actor asks themselves along the way. Do I love this enough? Do I want to do this enough such that I'm willing to go through all this training, that I'm willing to show up at, you know, uh, at workshops with casting directors and fork out that money too? Is it worth it to me to spend money on headshots? Is it worth it to me as an on-camera actor to have to build myself a wardrobe such that any any call that I get for whatever character I get, I have something to put on, to go step in front of the camera and be believable? Is it worth it to me to be in ongoing acting classes, to continually work on this thing that is really difficult to book? Is it worth it to have to join a social media group, in order to figure out how best to negotiate this particular job, right? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? And a lot of people get to a point and they go, nope, it's not worth it anymore. Like, it's too much. It's too frustrating. It's too much time. It's too much money. It's too much effort for not a lot of immediate return with no guarantee of return, you know? So, um, so I hate to say that again, right? It's like, yeah, but it all points back to you're the one who holds the reins. You're the one. There's nobody coming to say, "Oh, here is the perfect writer for your job that you're now facing." There's nobody out there to do that. It's trial and error. You may do a job and realize afterward that the terms that you agreed to were not great for you, you know? And then you learn for the next time. How I've done that countless times where I've been like, wow, did I undercharge for that? And now I'm pissed because I've agreed to all these revisions and I'm not getting a dollar more, and I learn. I learn now. Okay, well, the next time around, I have to account for revisions. How many am I willing to offer? And it all rests on you. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to offer? What's worth it to you? I can't say to anybody, I mean, I can, and I hope, there are people who work for $40 an hour to do a voiceover because it's a lot better than minimum wage somewhere else. They go, I'm making 4 times as much as I would have per hour. So this is great for me, right? And I hope to be able, I hope that person will look and go, and hear people when they say, the work is worth more than that. And you should be charging more for that, for yourself and for the rest of us, who are trying to keep rates at a particular standard. But I can't keep that person. They're happy. They're so happy to be given that rate. And I have no control over that or no say over that. It's like whatever they are willing to accept, right? Whatever lesson they want to learn. And maybe that's not even a lesson for them to learn. It's just the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's like, it's enough. It's worth it. So each of us has to answer that question for ourselves, right? Like, what am I willing to do? What's worth it to me? What do I think I'm worth? Now you can price yourself out of jobs all day long, which is, therein lies the rub. It's like, we have to find that middle ground. It's like, well, I'm worth this, and your employer believes that too. They go, okay, yeah, it's worth that for me to hire you. Um, so to me, Ron, you are making your way there, right? The fact that you go, okay, well, I know that if I book a job, I'm going to need to be prepared for how I charge and what the agreement is between us, which is fantastic thinking. More of us could use that kind of thinking. I'm not great in that way. Um, and then you look to the sources that you've been given, try these guys, and you come back and go, oh, I'm a little stuck, right? And so now you go, okay, so how do I answer this question? How do I solve this problem? And and you come back for more refining, of the answer to the problem. I'm like, um, and at a certain point you say, okay, well, I have enough information. I have enough, right, to move forward. It's not full, it's not complete. I'm going to learn something in the process that's going to make me savvier for next time, right? So I would say don't fret too much. I don't think you're fretting, but don't worry too much about having the perfect contract for the first job that you get, right? You're gonna agree upon a rate. They're gonna offer you a rate. It's you know certainly on pay to plays. They're gonna offer you a rate. Here's the rate, and it may be like this is non-negotiable. So you're gonna do it for $500, or we're hiring someone else, right? And you either agree to that or you don't. And if you book something through a pay to play site, you know there are a lot of the details that are in the job offering. And so your only job is whether you agree to them or not. Not that you have to come up with the contract that says, here's the thing, right? And of course, that is something that you would have to do if you have sought out that work directly, right? One on one. Hey, I do this kind of thing. Are you working on any stuff? And they say, yes, we'd love to hear you. You send your demo to them, your snippet to them, and they go, great, we'd love to hire you. What do you charge? They say, right? And then you come back with, here's my fee for the session. Here's what's included. And here's an AI writer that I need to have signed just to make sure that you're not intending to use my voice for some other projects, without my permission, right? It's in that kind of a circumstance, right? And by that time, you'll have enough information gathered that you can answer those things, right? So, um, so I think that's all there. But again, you're in a deep information collecting process right now, and there's really good information to be found. Although, again, it's like searching through a haystack, right? Like you're going to scroll through a lot of conversations that you're like, yeah, this didn't go where I wanted it to go. Let me search another. And that's the great feature about these groups is that you can search. You can search the conversation. You can search the page for the topic that you are interested in. Type in AI writer, and then the conversations pop up with like where they're discussing AI writers and stuff like that. Um, so that would be where I would send you, and I would download those forms from Nava, right? If they're just templates, right? Great. At least you've got the template, right? And inside of the template are some presumptions which are good, right? That's what you want. There's a presumption that there's a fee for the session, that there's a that you address whether there are fees for pickups or whether they're included for usage, that kind of stuff, for AI, all that stuff. That if that language is there and the contract it's a template for you to fill in the details, the producer, you, the rates, the term, that kind of stuff. Those are great to have. So, yeah, did I kind of get that?
Yes, thank you. No, very
Okay.
thorough.
All
Appreciate it.
right. Yeah, I'm I'm not short on words. But thank you. It's a good, really good question. I want to get to Jay's question, which he offered in the chat, which is I would like to get into live announcing, radio imaging, TV affiliate type work. What would you suggest knowing? What would you suggest knowing my skill set? I need to get an action plan going. This is my window of time. How do you work your direct bookings when someone wants to hire you directly? Do you run payment through a paymaster or do you another way? Okay, so those are two different questions. Let me address the direct booking. I do not use a paymaster. How do I do that? Trying to think. I either, um, actually, I did a live announce thing in March, and they asked me for an invoice. Um, Jay, they asked me for an invoice. I sent them an invoice, and they asked for. They said, "Do you want a check or do you want ACH direct deposit?" And I said, "I'll take ACH direct deposit." So I sent them. So I sent them my banking information, and that's how they paid me. That's it. Simple as that. I'm not using a paymaster. I'm not. This is like, um, there's no need to use a paymaster, as it's just there's no need. You know, it's you. They're just paying you. Um, a paymaster. You have to pay the paymaster for their services. And what you get from that, of course, if you use a paymaster, which again, I've never done that in my life. Not me. My agent, before I was incorporated and I was just paid as an individual, um, the advertising agencies use their paymaster to pay me, and they're the ones who withhold taxes and all those things. And and then they send that check to the agency, and then the agency takes their 10% of it, and then the agency cuts me a check, right? So, but being incorporated now, there are no taxes involved. You know, it still comes from a paymaster. This is with agency booked work. So it still comes from a paymaster, but it comes directly to the agency. There are no taxes taken out by the paymaster. The gross check comes to the agency. The agency takes their commission, and then they send me the rest. And so, if I've booked the work directly, I give them an invoice and they either send me a check or they ACH the thing. And then they will send me a 1099, right? So I'm responsible for whatever taxes. But because I'm incorporated, it's different. It's a different ball of wax. But if they're paying you directly, as an individual, they're going to send you a 1099. You'll report the income, and you'll pay your taxes however you do that, quarterly or what have you. But no, I do not run through a paymaster. Um like I think I understand why somebody might want to do that, because they don't want to be responsible for doing quarterly taxes. They just want, it's like, let the paymaster take the taxes out. They'll send me a W-2 and I just file my taxes, with a W-2. Um, but uh, but it's expensive. There's no need for you to use a paymaster. So let's see. Okay. With regard to live announce, radio imaging, and TV affiliate work. So those are three distinct types of work. Radio imaging and TV affiliate tend to get lumped together, even though they're really different work. TV affiliate work is really news promo, and it's more akin to promo than it is to radio imaging, although they do, like, there are managers who deal in radio imaging and TV affiliate work, and I think it's because they have often been contract work, where a radio station hires you on contract, and um, and a TV affiliate station hires you on contract, um, and so it takes a certain kind of negotiation, and so I think that's why they're kind of put together. Um, TV affiliate work is is a bear to break into. Um, it is uh, TV stations tend to be extraordinarily loyal to their announcers, their affiliate announcers, and so those jobs don't come up very often. I mean, I'm starting year 7 with Sinclair Broadcast Group. 7 years, right? So, and I have to say, they tend to keep female affiliate announcers a lot less than they do male. And so, there are male TV affiliate announcers who've had their job for 25 years. So you can imagine that that kind of work doesn't, there's not a lot of turnover. So there's not a lot of auditioning, you know? And it's radio imaging moves at a quicker pace because formats change, and um, radio imaging is what do I want to say? It doesn't pay well. It's not great paying work. And so they're constantly cutting budgets, cutting budgets, cutting budgets, paying less, paying less, paying less. Um, Radio imaging and TV affiliate tend to be under the purview of agencies, talent agencies. Radio imaging is different sometimes if you've worked as a, if you've worked in at a radio station, if you've gotten on air, if you have a friend who works at a radio station and they say, yeah, why don't you voice this? And then everybody goes, oh, we kind of like that guy. Yeah, we'll hire you, at some cheap ass rate, because, if we can get you cheap, we'll hire you, that kind of thing. But they tend to be bigger stations, radio stations tend to be under the purview of agents that, those contracts are negotiated. And I'll say this about TV affiliate work. Um, it's so deeply ingrained um, in agencies, talent agencies, because Atlas Talent has most, I would say, a huge, I don't know, most, it has a huge percentage of the TV affiliate voices in the country. Because 25 years ago, John Wasser, who's one of the principals of the agency, got in his car and drove across the country and stopped at virtually every TV affiliate in the country and established a relationship with them. And he he keeps those relationships alive. It's actually extraordinary what he did, um, and it's why he is who he is. You know, um, and so there are other agencies that deal in that work. CESD does. CESD New York does. Um, but I would say those are the top two who handle the voices at affiliates. There are a couple of managers who dabble in it, right? Who get their people, into TV affiliate stations. But it's mostly John Wasser and Atlas Talent, and I'll say it's mostly work for men. Um, Very, very little TV affiliate work for women. Um, so I would say, Jay, that in that case, if that is the kind of work that you want, you need to focus your energy on finding the managers or talent agencies who handle that kind of work and work toward the goal, right, of being represented by them. They're going to want you to do other things too. You know, um, Atlas Talent isn't just going to be like, yeah, if you do radio imaging, we'll take you. It's like, well, you do radio imaging among all these other things, right? Um, so, you know, whoever's doing promo, I take that back. It's not whoever's doing promo. It's that at Atlas, if you're doing promo, that's great, and they like you for your promo, then it's very likely that they'll include you in their TV affiliate search when they come up, and in those moments when they do come up. So that is an area just like animation and video games. That's like, I think, it's more closely tied to agency representation than it is to individual um, pursuit of the client, of the relationship with client. Now there'll be people who will come and go, but I got a radio station because I called, and it's like, great, yes, you can do that. There are exceptions to the rule. There for sure are. But again, it's one of those things like, okay, if you want that and you're willing to get in the trenches and be like, all right, I'm going to collect all the TV affiliate and radio stations that I want to work for, and I'm going to start my campaign to communicate with them and make sure they know who I am and kind of get in their face and like, here I am, when, and then you're going to come up against, we have our voice. We only work with, I mean, there are a lot of stations that'll be like, we only work with Atlas Talent. We only work with CESD, right? And then you might find an independent station somewhere that's like, sure, we'll listen, right? But again, it is a slog, right? So if you have representation, you know, um, if that's where you live in the voiceover world, then it's easier for you to set your sights on then what representation can I seek that offers me those kinds of opportunities. Does that make sense? I hope that that's good. Now, live announce is a thing unto itself, right? And you can, I mean, if you're talking about live announce for like the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscars, the Film Independent Spirit Awards, like all the majors, right? That's usually going to be agency representation. But there are, a million corporate live announce jobs, right? And there again, it's one of those things like you contact the company and you go like, do you have annual meetings? Yes, we do. We have our big annual gala every July. Great. Do you have live events there where you need a live announcer? Yes, we do. May I send you my demo to be considered? Right. It's the same thing. Like you're seeking out relationships, right? And it just depends upon what kind of live announcing you are looking to do. Um,
All the above.
all of the above. Yeah. So you're going to engage, um, uh, you're going to engage all those avenues then, right? Um, if you are with an agency, remind me who you're with. I feel like I know who you're with.
So I'm with in LA, it's Marcy Polson, and then in
Okay.
Chicago, it's Grossman Jack
Okay. All right.
and Stewart.
And Stewart. Okay. So I'm thinking that things like the Grammys and and the Oscars and the Golden Globes and all those things are really coming out of LA. And so they're seeking their voices through Los Angeles talent agencies. Um,
So I
uh,
guess more for me is I know that path you're saying, but what things do I need to be? Because obviously you need to have certain demos. I started training with Joe Cipriano's doing his thing. I'm doing your ongoing thing.
yeah.
Because there's a certain thing to me when you align yourself with things, they line up.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm needing direction, I think.
Yeah. So are you asking like where do you get training for that kind of
So
uh
what I guess if what I'm saying is for me to, they're going to say, hey, Jay, let me hear your demo. Or, whereas I know commercial, sometimes they can send you a script and then you can kind of get around the demo thing because I
sure.
have a commercial demo. But in
Right.
these genres, I'm pretty sure I would need a live announce demo possibly, and then a promo demo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it's the same thing. Uh I think if somebody's asking you for um if let's say it's a corporate thing, right?
mhm.
It's a corporate and they've said, "Yeah, we do hire and sure we'll listen." Um you can either say, do you have any portion of a previous script that you'd like me to read for you? Right? You can certainly
Mm-hmm.
ask them that, right? Um, but at the very least, there are, you know, um, there are live announce demos that you can listen to, that you can, um, or even live announce broadcasts that you can listen to, and you can pull the script, you can transcribe the
Mm-hmm.
script, and you just record it, right? And
Right,
say,
right.
here's a demo of, here's a sample, of a live announce script that I'm sending you, right? And um, again, it's one of those start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, and
Mm-hmm.
realize that there are going to be steps along the way. And for some people, it's going to be like, yeah, that's good. We get a sense. That's great. And other people may be like, well, we need a professional demo, and you can say, well, I don't have that at the moment, but when I do, I'll send it to you, like, I I think it, I think it just depends upon the client, sometimes the live announce things that are not broadcast, they often come by referral. you know um the thing I did in March was because a comedian that I used to work with decades ago was like, hey, I just suggested you for this job, you know and I think they just listened to like my commercial demo, you know um and
So,
sometimes that's enough, right? Sometimes it's enough to say, I don't have a specific live announce demo, but here's my commercial demo,
okay.
you know?
Because I have what I also have alignment with some of my friends, or one of my friends, a big wig at a dealership. He said, Jay, you ought to call my ad agency and you should be doing some of our voiceovers.
Yeah.
And then I have another friend who she works for the network. He said, hey, we look for a new network voice. Call this guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but my I guess my point is I want to be working those muscles, so I'm really ready. I'm over preparer for that.
Yeah.
I know I'm working with you, but you have any suggestions on people to work with outside of Joe Cipriano? I know there's Harry Dunn. There's for Randy Thomas, obviously for live announce.
Yeah. Um, those are certainly the people that I would go to. Live announcing is it's a little bit like promo and news affiliate in
Mm-hmm.
that there's sort of one way, to do it. Live announcing is a thing, and the thing that makes everybody different is really just sort of the structure of their vocal cords and the placement and stuff like that. But live announcing has a particular energy to it. It has a particular way you know, um, to impart the information. But I think Joe is great. I've never been to one of Randy Thomas's, uh, her live announcing, events and stuff like that. But, um, I feel like those are good people. Harry Dunn he's not a live announce guy. He's a promo guy, and yet his promo style is specific. It's my experience of this is that it's quite specific to the network that he worked for. That it was like
Okay, okay.
a typical kind of read, there. Um, but let me think on it, and I'll get back to you about who might
Okay.
be another person, specifically for live announce training. Um,
And I worked with Melissa Disney like
uh-huh.
in Rio, Atlanta many years ago, but I
Uh-huh.
don't know I guess she's still doing it. I'm in a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
healing. If I'm vibrating, it's because I'm in a healing like tank thing.
That's fantastic. Yes, I wondered what the vibration was. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, Melissa too. I've done a lot of live announcing myself. I'm happy to do a session with you about it. Uh, there are a couple of other people that I know who do it. Who do live announcing, and I'm just not sure if they
Mhm.
coach. I'm not,
Right, right.
but let me think on that specifically because I don't want to just throw names out without knowing if they're coaching or or if I just don't know if they're a good coach or not.
Right, right. Okay.
So
Yeah, we might
um
just want to do I kind of probably need an assessment of kind of maybe when we do an hour or something, you kind of go through
Yeah.
and say, hey, any demos, I would improve this. I would, Jay, we need to do this. So yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay. We are past the hour. Anybody have any last question that they have before we say goodbye for this month? These are great, very in-depth questions. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
Yeah.
I just want you to know, I really appreciate the hard questions. They're really important. People have them. And unless we're willing to ask, like it's just so helpful to be able to impart the information to everybody out there who's timid about asking the question. So kudos to you and your willingness to ask tough and complex questions. So thank you very much for your participation in all of it. And I will
We
see
have
you
Terry
next
coming up.
time. I'm sorry?
We have Terry coming up as our guest, right? Terry.
Carrie
Carrie.
Tombasian.
And then I think I remember her because she did the Apple
She
commercials,
did.
and she did. Yeah.
Did
Oh yeah,
indeed.
that's
Those
gonna
are
be great.
crazy ones. Carrie's done a lot of live announcing as well. So,
Oh,
she coaches. I'm not sure if she coaches specifically for live announcing, but you can certainly ask her about it. Yeah.
I
So,
will. Okay.
all right. Cool. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. I
Thank
hope
you.
you have a great remainder of your week.